Hello everyone, Ruby Rovell here. A poor wounded crustacean, a poor injured little crabby, skulking forlornly along the ocean floor, snipping my claws in a mixture of self-pity and rage, in anger and futility at the heavens above, saying, when am I going to take this tight, agonizing shell off and just be a mother or a child? When is it going to get better? Yes, today we are talking about Mars in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries. Now, it's very hard not to feel sorry for Mars in Cancer right now, and myself by extension. I'm very keen on feeling sorry for myself. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Because Mars in Cancer feels most powerful and strong when it is able to be in the position of a caregiver or of someone who is receiving care. One of the basic needs of the energy of Cancer is that it needs to be loved, but it also needs someone else to want its love, for someone else to be dependent on the sweet maternal milk that it can provide, for someone to say, I want you, I need you, I depend upon you. That's what makes Mars in Cancer feel good, that makes it feel that it has some kind of handle in this war ground that we call living. But the planets are not being particularly kind to Mars in Cancer right now. It's already in trine with Saturn in Pisces. And when Mars in Cancer reaches out and says, hey Saturn, you're looking a bit melancholic, you're looking a bit forlorn, a bit sad, a bit jaded, a bit cynical, a bit wounded by the world. When you come to sweet Mama Cancer over here, I'll let you rest your head on my bosom. I will look after you, I will caress you, I will cook you my secret homemade lasagna that has a recipe that I inherited from a long line of very well-versed Italian forebears that is guaranteed to make your soul feel whole, warm and nourished again, as though Moomin Mama herself had come all the way from Moomin Valley just to give you a little head pat and make you feel good about yourself. Is that something that you'd want, Saturn? And Saturn kind of flinches and recoils with horror at this suggestion and says, no. And secretly inside, Saturn in Pisces wants that very much. It wants to let all its walls, all its defenses, all its fortifications, its crenellations and ramparts, it wants them to fall down. It wants to say, yes, please, good God, give me some damn mothering. I'm feeling so lonely and trapped inside myself. I need some deep emotional connection and fusion with someone else. But Saturn is proud. And he says, no, I'm strong, I'm an adult, I'm independent, I need to look after myself and my own inner world. I can't be reliant on someone else. That's not who I am. Sorry, Mars in Cancer. And then Mars in Cancer feels like it's been fobbed off, it's been rejected, that the thing that it needs to feel powerful has been taken away from it. And that's one of the difficulties about Mars being in Cancer, is that in many other placements, Mars is able to be self-reliant, to be self-fulfilling, to be able to go out and do what it needs to do in order to feel great without anyone else having to get involved. But once your source of power is dependent on your relationships with other people, that puts you automatically in this state of vulnerability where there is a part of you that cannot feel fully in its own element unless there is someone else who is willing to play that game, who is willing to participate in the sacred emotional drama of someone being the mother and someone being the child, and then swapping the roles according to how people's moods are feeling in the moment. So Mars in Cancer, having been rejected by Saturn in Pisces, scuttles off, finds some seaweed and some coral caves into which it can retreat and watch some rom-coms to nourish its emotionally starved soul. But eventually, once it's cried it all out and it's reached that kind of ending, waning moon balsamic part of its cycle and has reached the point where it feels, I'm feeling recharged enough that I can try again. There's got to be someone out there who's going to let me love them. There's going to be someone out there who'll finally let me play mama bear and stop having to just internalize all these fantasies in a way that hurts me rather than helps me. There's got to be someone. So she starts looking out around the ocean floor. She's a crab, remember, so she's got these little opera glasses that she can hold up to the little eyes that she has on stalks. And my god, that image is so cute. I'm gonna kill myself. Please, someone draw that if you haven't already. Crab holding opera glasses, looking for love. I mean, I'm gonna cry. Good stuff. Anyway, she looks around the ocean. No, not ready. She looks around the ocean for someone else to nurture, and who does she see? She sees Chiron in Aries. And he looks like, well, he can look like a knight or he can look like a centaur. Take your pick, really. The main thing, though, is that he is lying on his side and he's got this great big arrow that is stuck in the side of his body. And it doesn't look good, folks. You know, there's all these kind of throbbing black varicose veins all around the area. It's suppurating pus and discharge. It's not a nice sight, but for a moment it almost fills Mars in Cancer with a source of hope. She thinks, this guy, he's helpless. He's completely trashed. He's in a pretty wretched state. If ever I saw someone who could benefit from Mama's good old-fashioned lasagna cooking loving, it's gonna be this guy, you know? Just give him a few nights just to let me nurse him and take care of him and expose him to those nice big healing bosoms of mine, and he's going to be as right as Wayne. But, you know, on second thoughts, I'm not sure I really want him to be too right as Wayne, because if he's too healed, if he feels too good, if he feels too heroic and confident again, he's going to want to go back out there and start fighting dragons and chasing manticores and flying to far-off medieval kingdoms and rescuing damsels in distress. I'm the damsel in distress, okay? Damn it, stay here with me. So she gets a little paranoid and maybe starts overthinking things a bit, but all the same, she has a wounded sucker on her hands, and by God, this guy's gonna be the one. She's going to nurse him back to health, and she has confidence, in spite of her recent rejection, that her love truly has a great therapeutic and healing capacity to it. So, looking all sweetly and gooey-eyed, she wanders over angelically to Chiron in Aries and approaches the wound, and obviously she sees this arrow, thinks, I'll pull it out, I'll put some local anesthetic on the area, we'll get some antiseptic on there, we'll swab it all up, you know, we'll even do that little thing I mentioned before where you spit into your hanky and you rub it on. Mama's spit's always going to be hygienic, folks. And she thinks, yeah, sure, he's going to be grateful for that. Instead, as soon as she touches Chiron in Aries, he howls with pain, and the rage and the insanities and the pain-drooled insanity that comes shocking out of him terrifies Mars in Cancer, who hasn't just been rejected, she's been insulted, and yet she can see that there is a cross purposes here. She can see that this is someone who desperately needs help, and yet who is refusing it. And what she doesn't understand is that Chiron in Aries has a wound that can maybe be ameliorated in some way, but can never fully be cured. And by drawing attention to the wound, by drawing attention to the area of the pain, she is only magnifying something that already dominates Chiron's consciousness. You know, a lot of the way that Chiron in Aries deals with its own wounds, by its own sense of suffering, by its own sense of being fractured, fragmented, and broken by life, is by desperately holding on to the image of itself as being powerful, of being puissant, of being heroic, of being capable, of being able to take charge. And it's precisely because it doesn't feel it can really do those things, because it has had so many experiences that has undermined its confidence in its faith and its ability to take on life, that it feels that it has to keep over egging those things. And Chiron and Saturn are quite similar in that way, is that if they have been wounded or made to feel insecure in a given area, they often respond to those areas of insecurity by overcompensating, by, well, it's the Chironic ethos altogether, that the thing that wounded you is also the thing that will heal you. So if your inability to feel powerful and to take charge in the world is what has made you feel helpless and broken, you're going to keep trying to regain that power that just doesn't seem to be your own. You're going to keep trying to be the hero who gets their special hour. So when Mars in Cancer comes along and starts babying you and making you, reminding you that you are as sensitive and helpless and as desperate for nurturing as you really are inside, but which you're trying to distance yourself from, yeah, that there's a good chance you're going to get angry at her, because she's making it too easy for you to regress into that side of yourself. She's mirroring back to you what you desperately wish you weren't. But then, because there is this kind of mutual reception of Mars, the ruler of Aries, where Chiron is, some of that pain ends up being reflected back to Mars in Cancer, because, you know, it's not just enough that Mars in Cancer offers love and nurturance to someone else. It does it for selfish reasons. And selfishness isn't bad, I will also add. We all have our needs, but she does it because that is part of what makes her feel good. That's what makes her feel alive, that makes her feel passionate, that makes her feel that, you know, life is on her side. And if the thing that makes you feel powerful is being rejected and refused and responded to with rage and destruction and foaming at the mouth from someone else, then Mars in Cancer ends up feeling even more helpless than she did before. It's like, I have this purpose, I have this driving compulsion within me, and it just seems like there's nowhere it can take hold or root in life right now. I've got all these energies, all these loving fires that want to come out of me, and instead they just have to keep sitting inside me, where they gnaw at me, you know. If we're thinking about Mars in Cancer being a crab, it's like our heart is filled with all of these little crustaceans that are just snapping inside of us when they need to go out there into the world, instead of just causing all these ulcerations by snapping at us within, because our love and compassion has nowhere to go. And very often we can find this in life, that we meet someone who we care about, who attracts us, who we really wish we want to help, who we really want to nurture and give love to, and we can see that they would benefit from that, and yet we end up being at cross purposes. Because when someone is in pain, when they are so wounded, and when they've built such a complex web of self-protection mechanisms around that wound, even just getting close to that person can be hard. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a relationship with someone who is suffering from some kind of extreme trauma, or who has been subjected to horrible kinds of abuse, or just generally horrible experiences in their past that involved them being robbed of their power and autonomy. But getting close to such a person and being intimate with such a person is a very delicate act and requires lots of patience. And by merely reaching out and offering intimacy to that person, when it was experiences of intimacy that with people who they were meant to trust and who they were meant to be dependent on in the first place, when, especially if their parents were involved or close lovers were involved, even if you're giving them and offering them something that they were denied, it still triggers off that part in the complex that associates any kind of emotional dependence with someone else with danger, with the possibility of being controlled, with the possibility of being injured and betrayed and taken to this point of torturous inner suffering. And you can find that even if you're approaching something with genuinely sweet and kind intentions, Chiron can still project all its worst demons and fears on you, that in that moment you are not the sweet, cuddly Cancerian nurse that you are trying to be. You are instead this terrifying monolithic crab from Ray Harryhausen's Mysterious Island, that looks like the person who abused it in the past. You know, it's a form of emotional shell shock, and a lot of tenderness and patience is required on both sides. And that is hard for Mars in Cancer, because Mars in Cancer identifies so strongly with its own feelings and with its own love that it often lacks the detachment just to say that, you know, I can't take the way this person is responding to me personally, because it will. It will take it personally and it will hurt. And then it has to ask itself, how much potential hurt and suffering and wounding am I willing to go through in order to try and heal someone else and heal their wounds? And, you know, when we have that patient nurse relationship with someone, especially with Chiron, that the pain can end up being this thing that is almost contagious, that becomes this transference that gets passed between one person and another like a hot potato. I don't have the answers to these conundrums. They are things I see playing out in my own life. I can only try and talk about that drama and bring awareness and consciousness to it, and hope that helps people who might recognize some of these issues in their own experience. Anyway, this mama crab has got to go to the opera and make use of those opera glasses, because she's just going to be sat there watching La Traviata weeping. That's why Verdi wrote the opera in the first place, when he was thinking, all right Verdi, who's your intended audience for this masterpiece of tragic operas? Who am I writing it for? He saw that little crab perched up there on the balcony with the red opera curtains behind, and went, yeah, that's who's going to get the most off of this. This is who's going to emotionally get off to this crab with opera glasses. There we are. Anyway, enough self-indulgent musing. Hope you enjoyed this video. You got any of your own Chironian wounds that you need my Mama Bear support with? Well, you're in luck. My email address is below, as is my Patreon, as is my Instagram page. I'm giving it all to you folks. Sweet, sweet nurturing milk.